All right, most people ask us, how did we meet? What's your story? I mean, everybody loves a good love story, and every love story has a beginning. So we might as well share ours. But before I do that, let me welcome you back to my channel. My name is Ayana, and this is Beyond Committed, where we talk about everything from life, faith, family, marriage, and everything in between, and we take them beyond. If this is your first time here, welcome, and I'm so glad you stopped by. And to make sure you're not a stranger, make sure you press the subscribe button below and then turn on your notifications so you don't miss a video. All right, now let's dive right in. Whew. Are you ready to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
So help me God.
All right, all right.
So I can remember back to when Ayana and I were first meeting, and my mentality at that time was I'm not looking for a girlfriend. I had been casually dating, really all my life through high school, college. Relationships, commitments were really not my thing. It looked to me to be a distraction.
He was the king of situationships.
Yeah, I guess that's what they call them now. Something like that. Pretty much so was, focused on me, my goals, dreams, ambitions, and visions and things that I had. And anything major that would disrupt or interrupt that, I pretty much so kind of wanted to keep it at bay.
Well, I was the completely opposite. I was all about relationships. I was all about commitment. Because, as women, we want whatever relationship we're in to go somewhere. So it's like that requires some sort of commitment, or at least a goal towards that. So that's what I was all about. And then I realized along the way that whatever, that little thing that in your mind that helps you make those decisions, whether he's a good person to date or you should give him your number, that was broke. Because the guys I was dating and the guys I was getting in a relationship with and the guys I was ending up in situationships with were not what was best for me, was not going where I wanted it to go. So I was like, look, I'm done. It's sophomore year of college. I'm going to do me and live my best life. So I was done with relationships, situationships, all of that. I was just going to do me.
Yeah, and so, I would say around thinking back to when Ayana and I met, and the possibility of us kind of coming together, like for the most part, guys, we kind of have a checklist on our heads of, if I was ever to get married, she would be X, Y, or Z. She would have A, B, and C, all of those kind of things, right? And so there's always that filter of what I'll call relationship potential assessment that occurs to whether, is this going somewhere? Or, no, it's just cool. We're going to hang out and be friends. And, when Ayana and I connected in organic chemistry, man, I hated that class. It was one of my least favorites anyway. The best thing that happened to me in organic chemistry was meeting her. Nevertheless, in that context, though, we shared a similar circle of friends. I would see her, pretty much so just small talk, kind of, hi and bye, hey, how you doing? That was really the extent, of our interactions.
Yes, that was the extent of our interactions, but that's not how our interactions went. The far as the hey, how you doing, the small talk was only for me. You would only respond when I spoke. You never was the first one to engage at any point. And I got to the point to where I would try to provoke him to speak. Not because I was like looking for like a relationship, because I told you I was done. So it was like this boy who I thought was really cute wouldn't even give me the time of day, not because I wanted him to, try to date me or anything like that, but I was like, he would truly like just be ignoring me, and I could walk into the room and he'd be speaking and he'd be like, when it came to me, and I'm like, why are we radio silent right now? So in my mind, I would like try to instigate ways to make him speak to me. And it was funny. It was like an internal game that I had. And then one day I kind of upped my game a little. So we went to a historically black college, and now homecoming is the thing. It is a ball of fun that's ended with a ball. So where they crown the queen and everything. So it's so fun. And everybody goes. And we were talking through a group of friends, and he wasn't going. And I was like, well, who does that? Who doesn't go to homecoming for like no reason at all? So towards the end of the conversation, I'm like, okay, since you're not going and I'm already going, why don't you go with me? And you see how there was that pause right there? That's what happened after I said that. And then you see how he's slightly laughing right now? That was like times 10. He busted out laughing. Him and his other friend busted out laughing. And I'm sitting here like,
Yeah, see, that's where our versions differ a little bit. Um, because ultimately, I think the whole dynamic was different. As you know, Ayana noted, we really didn't know each other that well. Speaking to each other, I don't remember it being as light and shallow as she described. However, if you take even her version and my version to get all the way to, hey, do you want to go to this homecoming event with me, seemed to be a leap. And I didn't really know how to interpret it. So I kind of laughed it off, in terms of, not wanting to be embarrassed or clowned or somehow shamed because I didn't really know her. But when I saw the look on her face, I knew she was serious. And in my head, I'm like, oh man, you done blew it, brother. So I spent the whole rest of that class sitting there, but my mind was elsewhere trying to strategize to figure out how I could right this ship. And so after the class, I approached Ayana and said, hey, this time with no laughter, but a lot of enthusiasm of, hey, I think it would be cool. I thought about it. I think it would be great. I look forward to going with you. And her response was like, flat, not interested at all. Now, the saving grace in that was that she gave me her phone number, so I knew there was still a little bit of hope that I could kind of navigate to right this wrong. But I had my work cut out for me.
and he did, because I was done. Like, first off, I don't go around asking anybody to go somewhere with me. I wasn't, propositioning you in any way. And how do you get to know somebody if you don't initiate some kind of way? So that didn't make sense to me all in my mind. So I was like, okay, whatever, dude. So yeah, here's my phone number. If we go together, we do. If we not, I'm going anyway. And I'm going to have a good old time and live my best life. But it was the first time that we learned within our young relationship and as we've grown how important your circle of friends are, because it's our circle of friends that helped us to get even to homecoming and tried to make sure that we knew, okay, no, she's serious, because one of my best friends was like, no, Eric, she's serious. She really does like you and think you're cute, and y'all would have fun. And his friends was like, no, she's really cool, despite the situationships I had been in and he had been in, which, came to haunt us later, because people were like, well, wasn't he just talking to such and such? And wasn't she just dating such and such? And we're both sitting here like, what does that have to do with what we doing right here? But, everybody has an opinion. Everybody thinks they know what's best for you or whatever. So that's why it was so important that our friends around us at that time came around us, were like, no, I think y'all would be really good together, and helped us to see that, okay, we could make this work even if it started off a little rocky.
Yeah. And I would say even with all the, challenges, trials, bumps and stuff in the road, we're both very independent, just people as individuals, life circumstances of whatever. And so for us, we're able to really kind of drown out a lot of the noise, the naysayers. It literally becomes background noise for us, and it's a source of strength. And I would say probably the next biggest hurdle for us was a long distance relationship, as my program was 4 years, hers was 6, and so we had to navigate those waters as well.
Yeah, and I think it was something that is hard. I mean, any long distance situation is hard because you're not together. You don't get to have that quality time and all those things that you do when you're together with someone. But it grew us and it strengthened us in so many ways. And I think long distance relationships can do that because you have to find a way to communicate better. Yeah. You have to find a way that works. You have to find a way that, okay, you do your check-ins, you do your making sure everything is cool, because you can't spend all the time together and you're not together, so you don't necessarily know what the other person is doing when you're not there. But there's that trust, that there's that respect, and there's that open communication that doesn't just sustain your relationship right then, but it helps it to grow later.
Yeah. And I would say even in the midst of that, probably the next major thing that happened was essentially Hurricane Katrina, right? And so that has huge kind of negative consequences and impact on us directly and indirectly, right? I think everybody kind of remembers different aspects of that journey, but at the same time, it was a blessing for us. It was like an accelerator in our relationship. And so Ayana was in pharmacy school. My stepmom happened to be a pharmacist who worked in Michigan, who had a pretty broad network. And so as Ayana was displaced, she was able to quickly kind of line up rotational opportunities so that she could continue on fulfilling the requirements in her program. And the other major thing was she ended up moving to like live with my family in Michigan, which was like very interesting as well, as I was several states away.
So it's funny that I was living with my in-laws before they were my in-laws. So it helped us to grow. It really did, because I had to learn to navigate his family and the dynamics in that. And it also showed their love and care for our relationship and their love and care for me, because they treated me like their daughter and allowed me to come in and live and do and finish my school so that I could go and continue just to grow in my career and in our relationship. So it definitely was a blessing. It definitely was a test for our relationship, but I think it's something that we passed. So it actually helped us continue our journey to the ring, but it also helped to prompt a much needed conversation. And I'll call it a conversation because it's not an ultimatum, because I don't like that. It's like, a negative connotation to that. But in any relationship, you have goals, you have boundaries, you have where you want it to go. And those should be clearly communicated. And I came to him, I'm like, hey, I love you. I care about you. I want this relationship to continue to grow. And I see myself being your wife. But if you don't see that by May of 2006, then we're done, because I'm like, I'm not gonna be your forever girlfriend. This ain't gonna be the, like how he gave a timeline about, well, when I get to 30. I wasn't waiting until 30. I was good right where I was at our relationship progressing, and it wasn't a timeline like some people like, okay, well, if this happens and this happens and it has to happen in this time frame. No, it's about seasons and changing and moving to the next thing. And I was moving to the next thing in my career, in my life. So if we were going to move in this thing together, then he was going to have to put a ring on it.
Yeah, so for me, that conversation, I don't really remember it vividly in the details, other than it's prompted me just where do you see this relationship going? Where would you want it to go? And for me, it was like a numbers game. I think at the time I was 23, 24 years old, and I'm like, marriage, like, no, I'm good. I'm not close to 30. I don't know who told me, but somehow in my head I decided like that was a good number, if you were going to consider that. And I also am a product of a family that had divorce in it as well. So my views on marriage were very mixed, and certainly not something that I was looking forward to exploring and doing. But I will say that, I was blessed to have several mentors and advisors, and one in particular, God rest his soul, really just breaking it down for me to allow me to see the big picture. And so he was such a blessing to me in terms of, hey, you don't want to do X, Y, and Z, what his experiences were, and the value and the potential that he saw in marriage, even though that was not his life. He saw the potential of saying, hey, here's an opportunity for you to have a life partner, somebody that you can build with, that you can grow with, that you guys complement each other. And he knew us both very well. So that kind of helped me to think about things differently, to show me a different perspective that I had not considered before. And also the realities that if I were unwilling, right, then I can kind of take a chance that, okay, you let her go, but your criteria, what you'd be looking for in a future wife, are all right here in front of you. You want to let a sure thing go for what? Like, there was no other alternatives, in that particular season of my life. And so I think those insights, my dad, being transparent and open with me, kind of sharing, key considerations given his journey and mistakes and what else I could do to improve, were all blessings that really helped me set up for success. And I made the decision, and I think, roughly 6 months or so later, I was out ring shopping with my mom, and, we're going from place to place, and she's like, Eric, are you sure? Is this what you want? I'm like, yeah. And so then it's like coordinating, the proposal, right, and the strategy, and calling up my father-in-law and having that conversation, which was interesting. But then for me, that was like the accelerator. It was like, oh, you've gotten the blessing from him now. Now you got this whole plan in motion, and essentially, that's a whole nother story. But ultimately, decided to ask Ayana to be my wife, and she said yes.
And so the journey to the ring ended. And it was a beautiful journey. It was a journey filled with many ups and downs, many times when we're both were like, okay, is this really what we want? Like, it's not a smooth journey to the ring. It's not a smooth journey to actually getting married. And marriage is not a smooth journey at all. But it's a journey well worth taking. And I'm glad we are in this journey together. All right, now that's it for today. And I want to know, how has your journey to the ring happened? Or are you still in the midst of your journey? I want to know. So make sure you drop your comments in the comment box below, and make sure you turn on your notification and press that subscribe button so you don't miss a video. All right, now until we see you again,